Welcome to Call the Wild Tutorials, and today we're out here at the shooting range in Hirschfelten, and we are going to be doing a PS4 and PS5 control video. To start with, there's our analog sticks. The left analog stick moves us forward, backwards, right and left. The right analog stick looks up and down and right and left. And we go to our X button or our cross button for those in Europe, and it is jump. And it is also to enter our ATV and to exit our ATV. So we'll do a different tutorial on ATV controls in another video, but the X button does those two things. The next we're going to talk about square, and square interacts with pretty much everything within the world. When we go up to our inventory, we use square, checking tracks, spotting animals, checking for sound. So if you have a DualSense Edge controller for PS5 or you have back buttons on your PS4 controller, I suggest setting one of those back buttons to square because it is probably the most used button in the game. Next we have triangle, and triangle is for reloading. So if we take a shot, we can press triangle to reload. Now there's a setting in the menu that you can use to manually chamber. So that means every time you fire, instead of automatically chambering the weapon, you would have to press triangle to manually chamber. And that's at your discretion. I don't have that personally, as you can see, but you have to press, you can also put on manual or automatic reload as well in the setting menu. I'm just not a big fan of it. I'd rather just be able to press triangle and reload my weapon. Even if you have automatic reload, it does it after the last shot, but just pressing triangle just reloads your weapon. Next we have the circle button, and circle is for changing your stance. So we are standing right now and we want to go to crouching position. We press circle. We can press circle to go back up to standing. Now to get down to prone, we have to press and hold the circle button, and that'll take us to prone. And now you can either do that from standing or from the crouch position. To get out of the prone position, there's two ways. We can either press circle to go back up to crouch, and then if we wanted to get to standing, we can just press the circle button again. Or we can have like a quick up, which is to go from prone to standing. We press the X button, and that'll get us up to that position. The next thing we have is the L2 button, which is aim, or to use your binoculars. Now in this position here, you can use your D-pad up and down will zoom in and out. So pressing up on the D-pad zooms us in, pressing down zooms us out. And then of course, if we had, for example, our binoculars equipped and we press the L2 button, we can zoom in, but we can also press the triangle button and put a waypoint down there. So say we spot an animal. We're going to look at our dog here, Monty, and we want to put a waypoint on him. Then we can press triangle. For some reason it's not doing it that close, but there we go. Put that over there. So there we go. So triangle will do that. So also when we're in, for example, that aim position as well, it gives us a good opportunity to talk about the R2 button, which is just fire. And also within the aim position as well, we can talk about the L3 button, which is breath control. So L3, when in aim, will hold our breath. And so we want to use that in conjunction. Now, once again, this holding your breath, you can either press and hold, or you can have it as a toggling feature. It's within the settings as well. And once again, if you have that PS4 controller with the back buttons or the DualSense Edge, I recommend setting one of your back buttons to L3. It just makes it a very convenient, hands-free, when you're running around and you're hunting. You don't have to, really press any of the buttons unless you're jumping. You won't really have to use many of the face buttons. when you've got square and L3 as your back buttons. It really helps. So moving on, we're going to talk about our R3 button, which is our headlamp or our torch for those in Europe. So pressing it once turns it on, pressing it again turns it off. And then going back to L3, when we're just walking, if we press L3, it will change us from walking to running, pressing it once. But if we double tap the L3 button, it will turn on auto walk. And to change, we can change from walking to running by pressing just L3 once again. And then to go back to a walk, we can just press it again. So tapping it changes our speed. Double tapping it starts it. Double tapping it ends it. Or what we can do is use the analog stick to stop our movement in auto walk. Now also in auto walk as well, we can press our circle button and go down to crouch, and that'll keep us in the auto walk form when in crouch. If we press and hold, then it'll continue to auto walk but in prone position as well. So just some helpful hints there for that. Now that takes us to our D-pad. And so when we, for example, press side to side on our D-pad, that scrolls through our inventory slots. And so that will help us to change our weapon quickly, especially, for example, the way I have it here. I know my binoculars are right beside my bow, so I can go from my binoculars to my bow rather quickly without having to scroll through my inventory. Now we can also press up once on our D-pad, and that'll actually detach the sight. So you can see that my sight just changed. If we press up again, it'll go. Now let's go to an actual rifle. Oh, he says after he changes from the rifle. So if we press up on the D-pad, you can see it detaches our sight, and now we just have iron sights. Press up again and it'll equip our sights. So this helps if you're, for example, in a situation where you've got a water buffalo or alligator or crocodile attacking you. You can just press up quick, detach your sights, and then use your iron sights up close. Now, if we press and hold the up on the D-pad, that will bring up our weapons wheel. So this is an actually really nice feature that they brought in to quickly scroll through our inventory. So you got to press and hold it and then use your right analog stick to select the weapon that you, or whatever you want to use that's in your inventory. Now, we use another way to scroll through our inventory quickly as well. It's the old school way of doing that. You can press up, and as you see, we can scroll through our inventory going side to side rather quickly when we do it that way. So it's just another way we can scroll through our inventory slots when we know what we have. Now, we also have the R1 button as well. And so as you can see in the corner, I don't know how sharp it is, but we can see that the R1 button, it activates any kind of active perk that you have to turn on, any skill or perk you have to turn on. You can scroll through it. So in this case, I have zeroing, so we can see it scrolls through the zeroing just by tapping R1. Now, if you press and hold R1, it whistles, and so that's good for getting an animal's attention. So if you're close enough to an animal, sometimes it's got its back turned towards you and you give it a little whistle. Now, just so you know, that's going to make the animal spook, but it'll also make it turn for a second. So it's a good way to, if you've got an animal that's within that hearing range, you can make it turn, and then you can get your shot off a little bit better as well. And it's good for flushing out pheasants and grouse as well. The L1 button is, if you press it, it brings up your hunter mate. And if you press it again, it goes back to the previous weapon that you had equipped. And if you press and hold it, it takes everything out of your hands altogether. And then press and hold again to bring it back up. I should also mention that the square button for a lot of the missions, if we press and hold the square, it'll bring up our camera. L2 is what we use to take a photo, and zooming in and out is up and down on the D-pad as well. Now, once again, this is not really a big deal. Taking photos here on PlayStation does not mean anything. It's just for the missions only. If you wish to take a picture with your camera, then I suggest you maybe suggest your or set your settings for your capture features that you can just either press once or double click your camera, and then it'll take a picture if you want some screenshots. So to exit the camera, press and hold once again the square button, and that takes us out of that camera mode. And finally, we have our D-pad down. So we have our friend out, Monty here. Normally the D-pad down does absolutely nothing other than, zoom in and out when you're in that feature. But when you're just out hunting, you press D-pad down, nothing happens. But when you have a dog equipped, it does two features. It does a quick command, and then pressing and holding brings up our command wheel for our dog. So just to show you our quick command, we're going to press on the D-pad down once, and this will get our dog to heel. And then if we bring up the command menu by pressing and holding, and then selecting with the R3 stick, we can just get him to sit down here again. And there we go. So those are the commands that we have. We're going to have a separate video on dogs and the dog wheel, on inventory, and on driving an ATV. So I hope you found this helpful in getting started. We know we've had a lot of new players come in with the amount of PSN sales that have been on with this game. And we want everybody to be able to start and be able to enjoy it right away. So I hope this helped you. From the Hirschfelten Reserves, this is called the Wild Tutorials, saying happy hunting.